Welcome to Vendor Portal Training, E-Lesson 3, Item Adjustments in Vendor Portal. During this e-lesson, you will learn two ways to submit item adjustments using the Vendor Portal: electronic import and manual entry. We'll cover electronic import first, where you will learn how to download your item adjustments list to create a spreadsheet for entering your item adjustments, also known as deals and promotions, and how to import the completed spreadsheet into PowerHQ. Then, we'll show you how to use the Vendor Item Adjustments module to check the status of submissions, correct any errors in the data, and enter item adjustments manually versus using a spreadsheet. But first, let's go over a few key concepts on vendor item adjustments. Adjustments typically reduce the regular cost. Item adjustments are applied as a case adjustment dollar amount. The system calculates the unit adjustment based on the number of units in the case. A regular cost change through EDI 879 will be rejected during adjustment period on an item. Last-in submission applies only if the record is open and the cutoff date has not passed. Types of adjustments and promotions. Non-negotiated adjustments do not require DECA approval and are independent of a promotional event. Adjustment Code 1 off invoice includes everyday low price and temporary price reduction. Negotiated adjustments require DECA approval and are associated with a promotional event and must be submitted 120 days prior to the voluntary price reduction date. Those negotiations occur outside of the system. Adjustment Code 2 off-invoice allowance includes power buys and national promotions. Adjustment Code 10 Manager Special Scan Downs. The adjustment is taken off the retail price as a scan down. Non-negotiated adjustments process through Vendor Portal under defined business parameters and are returned with a status of either applied or rejected. Negotiated adjustments are submitted and initially returned as open in the staging table, waiting for action from DECA. You may see negotiated adjustments in a pending accept or pending reject status. For a pending reject status, you have the opportunity to resubmit the adjustment based on the rejection code and reason. When DECA approves or rejects the adjustment, the final status will show as applied or rejected. Yellow denotes the adjustment is open in the staging table waiting for action from DECA. Green denotes pending accept status. The adjustment has been accepted but has not yet been applied to the operational tables. Gray means the adjustment has been accepted and applied to the operational tables. Purple indicates a pending reject status. You have the opportunity to resubmit the adjustment based on the rejection code and reason. A white background with red text indicates the adjustment has been rejected. Cost Zone 99 applies the adjustment to all cost zones worldwide and is used for non-negotiated promotions with adjustment code 1. Cost Zone 999 applies the adjustment to the 48 states in the continental United States, excluding Alaska and Hawaii, and is used for negotiated promotions with adjustment codes 2 and 10. Alaska and Hawaii cost zones can be added if applicable. Cost Zone 999 can only be used with adjustments, not with costs. An item can have a single adjustment or up to 3 simultaneous adjustments. Adjustment codes 1, 2, and 10 can be stacked. Adjustment codes 1 and 2 will be reflected in the retail price calculation as retail price equals regular cost plus markup minus an adjustment. Adjustment code 10 will be reflected in the retail price calculation, but will not be reflected in the net cost of an item, as it is a scan-based adjustment. Promotions with the same adjustment code will not stack. The last one received will apply. How to submit item adjustments via electronic import. There are 4 basic steps to submitting item adjustments via electronic import. First, export your item adjustment list and save it as an Excel spreadsheet. Then, enter the data for the adjustments into the spreadsheet. Import the spreadsheet using the electronic import module, and you can immediately check the status of the adjustments you submitted in the Vendor Item Adjustments module. This is a more detailed view of the 4 steps. You don't have to memorize it. It is in section 4.3 of the Vendor Reference Guide on commissaries.com. Step 1. Download the item adjustment list. The item adjustment list contains all the items you provide to DECA under a specific contract or agreement, i.e., the unique vendor number. You can use it to create and download a spreadsheet to enter and submit item adjustments electronically. To get your item adjustment list, 1. Open the item adjustment module. The items displayed are based on your vendor number and name. 2. To see all items in your item adjustment list, click Apply. This could be a very large list, and you may want to do some filtering to narrow down the results. We cover that next. 3. You can sort on any column by clicking in the column heading to change the way the results are displayed. Unless you want to submit item adjustments on all the items on your contract, you will want to use the filters to narrow down the results. Otherwise, you may have to delete a huge number of rows from the spreadsheet. 1. Select your filter or multiple filters. You can filter by UPC, brand code, event, cost zone, start date, end date, or region, such as Alaska, Hawaii, or Europe. The example shows filtering by brand code. 2. Select the logic statement. Typically, you can use the default logic statement displayed. 3. Enter the value or use the find icon, if shown, to select the value. 4. Click Add. If a specific value is required, indicated by the find icon, click Add again. 5. Click Apply. The item UPC EAN appears multiple times. It is listed for each cost zone served per your contract or agreement. Note the inclusion of cost zone 999, the CONUS allowance zone, which allows you to submit an item adjustment that is for the continental U.S. and excludes Alaska and Hawaii. The item adjustment list contains 22 columns of data for each item as shown. You can enter your item adjustments using the event, adjustment code, case adjustment amount, start date, end date, and vendor comment columns. Remember, you can sort on a column to rearrange the data. You can export the item adjustment list with all items or for items based on filtering to use as a template for submitting item adjustments via electronic import. 1. Once you have the data you need, click the Export button. 2. On the pop-up, select the CSV, delimited file format to open the report in an Excel spreadsheet and click the Generate Report button. 3. Click OK on the confirmation message. 4. Open the View Generated Report module. Double-click in the row to select the report you want. The report you just created will show at the top of the list. Click the View icon and click Open on the pop-up. Let's look at an example of filtering and exporting the item adjustment list for 4 specific items. Using the UPC-EAN filter and the default logic statement, enter the 4 UPC-EAN numbers for the items we want to submit adjustments for. Notice we key a comma between each UPC. Click Add and Apply. Our data loads. Click the Export button, select CSV file format, and click Generate Report. Click OK in the confirmation box. Click View Generated Report module, select your report. Click View, click Open at the bottom, and your report loads into an Excel document. Step 2. Enter item adjustments. The generated report opens in an Excel spreadsheet format. Enter the item adjustment details, then save the spreadsheet in your document library on your PC. Again, note that the UPC-EAN for an item is listed for each cost zone served per your contract or agreement. Whether using the exported item adjustment spreadsheet or your own spreadsheet, some fields are mandatory and must be included for the electronic import to be successful. Mandatory fields are UPC, adjustment code, case adjustment amount, cost zone, start date, end date, and event number if applicable. The column headings for the mandatory fields must be labeled as follows for the electronic import to be successful. The columns can be in any order within the spreadsheet. Please note, formulas cannot be used in any of the mandatory columns on the spreadsheet for the import to be successful. If you use formulas to calculate a field, do it in a separate column or spreadsheet and copy the column and paste it as values under the mandatory column heading. The downloaded item adjustment list shows the applicable cost zones for each item. For non-negotiated adjustments, adjustment code 1, enter the item adjustment for cost zone 99, which is the base zone. It will apply the adjustment to all cost zones and the stores within those zones unless you enter an override. For negotiated adjustments with adjustment codes 2 and 10, use cost zone 999 to apply the adjustment to 48 states in the continental U.S., excluding Alaska and Hawaii. They can be entered separately if applicable. No entry is needed for the cost zones, where the adjustment amount is the same as the base zone, but they can be entered. The online vendor store table identifies the cost zones and stores specific to your contract or agreement with DECA. You can filter the vendor store table by store ID, DODAC, store name, distributor code, or cost zone to find the information you need. Additionally, a crosswalk of cost zones, regions, and pricing DODACs is provided in the vendor reference guide. The mandatory required fields contain vital details for the electronic submission. 1. If an adjustment is tied to a promotional event, enter the event ID number. If not, leave it blank. You can get the event ID numbers from the DECA promotional calendar on commissaries.com. 2. Currently, there are 3 adjustment codes, 1, 2, and 10. Each entry requires an adjustment code. 3. In the case adjustment amount column, enter the dollar amount of the adjustment for the case, not the unit adjustment amount. The case adjustment amount can be calculated by multiplying the unit adjustment amount by the case pack quantity. 4. The start and 5, the end date reflect the dates the adjustment begins and ends. And finally, 6. The column headed Vendor Comments is not mandatory, but may be used to enter up to 128 characters. The example shows how the mandatory fields for item adjustments are entered into the downloaded item adjustment list for a non-negotiated promotion. The vendor supplies items to all cost zones and is providing a TPR for its Cadbury items. Using the spreadsheet created from exporting the item adjustment list, note the following. 1. Enter the item adjustment for cost zone 99, which is the base zone. It will apply to all cost zones unless you enter an override. The example shows the event is blank because it is a non-negotiated promotion with code 1. The case adjustment amount of $2.20 is entered. Remember, the adjustment amount is based on the case cost. Start date and end date must be entered. Vendor comment is optional. 2. No entry is needed for the cost zones where the adjustment amount is the same as the base zone, but they can be entered. 3. Override adjustments are provided for cost zones 11, 22, 23, and 24. Save the spreadsheet to your PC as an XLS file. Do not use CSV. You are now ready for the electronic import. An example of a negotiated adjustment spreadsheet is provided in Section 4.4 of the Vendor Reference Guide. To see how electronic imports work, we'll use an example of a vendor submitting 2 types of adjustments for 2 items on a spreadsheet. The first is a non-negotiated adjustment, adjustment code 1, that applies to only 4 cost zones. Note that an event number is not required for a non-negotiated adjustment. An adjustment for cost zone 99 has not been entered since the adjustment applies only to the selected cost zones. Unused rows for other cost zones have been deleted from the spreadsheet. The second one is a negotiated adjustment, adjustment code 2, for a promotional event. Note that an event number is required. An adjustment for cost zone 999 has been entered to apply the adjustment to the 48 continental states, and adjustments for 3 additional cost zones have been entered. Unused rows have not been deleted from the spreadsheet. Step 3. Import the item adjustment spreadsheet. To import and submit the completed spreadsheet, first, return to the Modules panel and select Electronic Imports. 2. Click on the New button. 3. A secondary window opens. Enter 4 for the transaction type ID. Number 4. Click Load from Excel. 5. Click Select Excel File. 6. The document library on your PC will open. Find and double-click on the Excel file you saved. Remember, the system will not accept a CSV file. The selected file name appears on the screen. 7. Click Load to import the file. The load status will display as a green bar. 8. The imported data displays in the lower section. 9. Click Save at the bottom of the screen. 10. A confirmation screen advises that after import you will not be able to edit input data. Continue. Click OK. And 11. A second confirmation screen advises the import was inserted successfully. Click OK. The Results tab will display. It shows the total number of rows submitted, the number of rows successfully inserted, the number of rows that were not processed or imported due to errors, the number of rows that were processed but received warnings based on business rules, the number of rows that were excluded from the import due to no item adjustment data in those rows. This could be a large number if you do not filter the cost book and/or delete rows without cost changes. In this example, we submitted 20 rows. 8 rows were processed without warnings or errors, and 12 rows were excluded due to no data in those rows. If you want to view the imported data, click on the Import tab. Click the blue X at the top of the screen to close the window. Let's return to the Modules panel and choose the Electronic Imports module and import our item adjustments from earlier in this lesson. Click New in the Electronic Import module. The secondary screen opens. Enter 4 as Transaction Type ID. Click on Load from Excel and select Excel file. Click Load. Click Save at the bottom. Click OK in the 2 confirmation messages. The import results surface. You can toggle between the Import tab and the Result tab. Step 4. Check the status of the item adjustments you submitted. When the electronic submission is completed and you have reviewed the Results tab, go to the Vendor Item Adjustment module. To see all your recent adjustment submissions, click Apply. The system will automatically display the most recent submissions at the top of the grid. You can also use filtering to find specific submissions. 3. The grid will show the stage status of the submission. 4. Click on any row to get the additional information sidebar. 5. If a submission is rejected, you will see a reason code or EDI error code followed by the reason. The reason codes are defined in Section 7 of the Vendor Reference Guide. Based on our example spreadsheet, Adjustments 2, we see that the 4 promotional adjustments were rejected because the date of submission was too late. The 4 non-negotiated adjustments were applied. Non-negotiated adjustments are automatically applied or rejected based on DECA business rules. They will show as applied or rejected in the staging table. Negotiated adjustments will show in an open status initially. They may show in a pending accept or pending reject status until DECA applies them to the operational tables. If an adjustment is in an open, pending accept, or pending reject status, you can request DECA remove the submission. You must follow up the request with an email to the category manager with the reason for the removal. DECA will make the decision to remove or not. The remove option is not available if the status is applied or rejected. Now, we'll show you how to use the Item Adjustments module to check the status of another imported spreadsheet. Click Apply to review our imported item adjustments. Close the Module panel to allow more room to see our data. Our first 6 items were negotiated adjustments and all are showing correctly as open, followed by our next 6 non-negotiated adjustments that are all showing as applied. We can scroll over and review the user and date the adjustment submissions were made. You can also filter to find adjustments in a specific stage status, such as open or rejected. Filter by stage status. Use the default logic, then open the drop-down in the target data field. Select Rejected and click Apply, then click Add and Apply. Our data surfaces. Click on the first row to view the codes and reason for the rejection in the sidebar. We see our effective date for this adjustment should have been the 1st or the 16th. This item missed the promotional cutoff date. Let's clear the filters and look at items with an open stage status. Here, we see our open items in yellow. We can click on the row to view the item details. How to submit item adjustments via the Vendor Item Adjustments module. 1. Open the Vendor Items Adjustment module. 2. If the top blank row is not displayed, click on the up arrow to open a new row. 3. Enter UPC number and tab. The system will populate basic item data based on the UPC. 4. Enter the event ID if applicable, the adjustment code, the case adjustment amount, the cost zone, and start date and end date. Be sure to change the start date from the default of today's date. 5. You can enter optional vendor comments. 6. Click the plus sign to submit the entry and open a new row. You can continue to add additional item adjustments. 7. The entry will drop to the grid below and its status in the staging table will be reflected. 8. Click on the row to see the detailed information grid. 9. The system captures and displays the date the record was changed and who changed it. You can check the status of the item adjustments submitted manually or via electronic imports using the Vendor Item Adjustments module. In this example, 5 submissions were accepted and applied. 1 submission was rejected. 1. Click on the row that was rejected. 2. The sidebar displays the reason code and reason the submission was rejected. You can refer to Section 7 of the Vendor Reference Guide for EDI 889 error codes and Vendor Portal reason codes. 3. Note the incorrect start date. A start date of 9/1/2017 should have been entered, probably a keying error. 4. To correct and resubmit, click in the top row and enter the correct information for the item adjustment and click the plus sign to submit. Let's see how the system handles a rejected adjustment entry and resubmission. Enter the UPC and tab over Entering Data. This entry is a non-negotiated adjustment type 1. Click the plus sign to submit. It loads the entry, and we see it is in red text, indicating it is rejected. Click on the row and review the rejection reason. We entered our start date as 9/6/17, and it should have been 9/16/17. To correct, we'll need to enter our adjustment again, this time being sure to enter the correct start date. We submit, it loads, and our entry appears in gray. Because the adjustment was non-negotiated, once it has passed the system parameters for start dates, it was immediately applied. Additional resources and support. The Vendor Reference Guide provides additional information and is located on www.commissaries.com under Our Agency, About DECA, Business with DECA, Vendors/EBS. If you need additional assistance or support, you can contact the Vendor Portal Help Desk, which is available 24/7. Contact the Help Desk if you need guidance in using the Vendor Portal, login assistance and password reset support, or if you need to report a technical issue. For Vendor Portal Help Desk support, call 1-800-531-2222 and enter PIN 7780. If you've completed the 3 e-lessons in this online training, you are ready to start using the Vendor Portal to submit cost changes and item adjustments for deals and promotions. Although it may seem a bit complicated at first, the more you use it, the easier it will become.